UKLC is presented by Curry's PC World.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the UKLC Day 2, brought to you by Curry's PC World Gaming. And a big shout out and a big hello to all our friends over watching on BBC iPlayer and BBC Sport. My name is Jake Hitbrain Matthews, and I am joined by Jamada once again. Jamada, what a day we had starting it off yesterday with the UKLC.
Yeah, it doesn't really get much better than that for an opening day of any split, really. I mean, this opening game here, Bulldog versus Demise, I mean, Hachi just shattering any kind of expectations we had set for ourselves with Rifty. I mean, we spoke heavily and highly of Rifty, saying, you know, this game is probably going to be about Demise playing through top side and then Bulldog playing through bottom side. But yeah, it's hard to play through a 0-3-0 Irelia at like 15 minutes. And honestly, from the early game, Bulldog and especially Hachi, throughout the mid game, just continually just showed up to these team fights and made it so one-sided in a lot of these great skirmishes, and things got a bit scary, particularly towards that third or fourth dragon. But no one was really in doubt that Bulldog.
Yeah, I feel like there was just a point where that game just turned online for Bulldog, and they just had it. And the thing is, as well, as I do want to say that I still really rate Rifty as probably one of the best top laners in this league. And for the fact that Hachi comes in and just shows up that hard isn't like a knock at Rifty. It is actually just big props to Hachi for having such a good game. Obviously, our Envision game ended out with probably the best way for us to shake the rust off after such a long preseason. A pentakill for Spark on the Kaiser. I mean, his team built to let this man going, and he delivered.
Yeah, delivered pretty much start to finish. And like you say, the comp was built for him to succeed. A couple of question marks around the draft and his damage profile, but in the end, it didn't really matter because Enclave, despite some very strong showing, you know, objective setup, Herald setup, nice rotations coming out in the early game, it wasn't really enough to really keep them in it. And this game, Resolve Eminem, I mean, I think this is probably my favorite game of the night. It was just so back and forth from start to finish. And by the end of it, really, one auto attack, I feel the difference between Eminem and actually taking the game versus Resolve for the final team fight we see here. This fight, Kazura lasting so long in the middle of so many members, and that was kind of the story of every team fight in this game, was how quickly could Resolve kill the Angry Viking.
The big thing I took away from yesterday, and kind of just moving away from the games in particular, was how close all of them were, really. There was never a moment where any game looked one-sided. There was a team that got ahead and then would close out, but it didn't look like it was one-sided from start to finish.
No.
And I think that was the big thing, was all of these games came down to execution, and it wasn't just like, oh, this team's just making mistakes and the other one's getting fed. It, like, this fight was the perfect example of the execution. And that big auto attack you're talking about, Harry just couldn't get onto Yusa in this fight. Is this the one?
No, this is
probably the one. But there was a fight.
The fight before.
In this exact same spot.
This fight was bonkers. Like, this could have gone either way. Huge props to DBL for this team fight, honestly. Actually, a pretty stellar performance from him in these great team fights. In general, always finding the nice flank angles. And here, Barrage versus London, the final game of the night, turned out to be pretty London favored by the end of it. Barrage never really able to get their foot in the door with this pretty strong team composition they drafted for themselves. So, you know, props to London really for never letting Barrage actually set up properly, because had they set up properly, I would have had pretty major concerns for London. But honestly, they piloted every single objective spawn really well.
They did. Let's have a little look at the standings and see how everything has fallen coming out of day one. Going into day number 2, London, Envision, Resolve, and Bulldog all have a win, while it's over to Barrage, Demise, Enclave, and Eminem all to find their first win. You do not want to be ending your first week here at the UKLC on a loss. So for them, it is a matter of finding that win. And I think better way to have a look at that is see who's playing who. Let's have a look at the upcoming games for today and see what we have kicking off our day here at the UKLC. We're starting off with Resolve versus Enclave. Then it's Bulldog versus Barrage. Eminem versus Demise is our third game. And we're rounding out with Envision versus London. Jamada, what games caught your attention?
Well, I think naturally, like we said yesterday, it's always going to be a thing for us to have to track Resolve and see how they are doing. But away from the Resolve Enclave game, I think probably Envision and London, you know, both actually winners yesterday. So one of them will have to drop that perfect record. So probably our final game of the day, if anything, but also Bulldog, man. Bulldog, after that really explosive performance into Demise yesterday, and a particularly Hachi. So I think pretty much across the board again, we've got a lot of fun games to like keep our eyes on track.
I'm glad you mentioned Hachi, because we can have a look at our predictions. And
yes,
Hachi was literally the deciding factor in the second game of the day for me when I was voting between Barrage and Bulldog. I went for Bulldog just purely because of how much that man showed up yesterday in the top lane. So we bring up our predictions. We'll have a little look at what me and you both went for. Yesterday we were tied and all went for the same things. Today there's a bit of a shake up there. Mostly the same, but at that bottom, I went for Vision. You went London. What was your thinking behind that?
So I think London may be able to play around this potential playstyle we see come out from Envision today, because last split, and I'm speaking from experience too, Envision were quite like one-faceted, right? They wanted to just set up Alex and that would be the thing. Yesterday, now it seems like Spark is their man. Obviously, it's one game. It's a very small sample size. But if we see that come out from Envision again, I do feel like London's bot lane should be able to kind of hold up versus that kind of play style, and particularly Billy into BB Muffin. I think Billy had a really stellar performance, a very, very explosive performance yesterday. So many fights where he was basically kind of just solo winning the fights. It's not always the thing that's at the forefront of the fight, because it's just kind of small things where he's keeping people busy or just 1v1ing the carries in the backline. But I think that's also kind of what drove me into saying London. I think that their team yesterday, I kind of see them as potentially a little more rounded if they can get themselves a solid draft into Envision.
I want to ask you about the picks and bans and the way our internal meta, let's just call it, was looking at the UKLC yesterday. Was there anything that kind of caught you off guard, or was it kind of what we expected? What were the picks and bans looking like for yesterday, and do you think it's going to be more of the same today, or do you think there's maybe some stuff that kind of didn't really get any C that should have yesterday?
I mean, we didn't get to see a whole bunch of Samira, did we? We saw one Samira game, and it was barely a game. Didn't get to press Araki. So I mean, everything's been pretty normal. I think also actually in that game, the Ivern was obviously pretty out there. But I do think he's kind of strong, so maybe we see some junglers pick him up. Maybe not today, but maybe like going into next week. But other than that, everything was pretty normal. There was no really weird pick. There was a lot of just kind of sort of, I don't want to use the word mimicking, but you know, the LPL and the LCK have been going now for about a week or so. So teams do have something to sample off, and it feels like they've pretty much kind of been.
I mean, for me, the Ivern and the Nunu were in the same game. That was
God, Nunu.
They were the two that kind of they came from the left field for me. Everything else, it was maybe what we expected. I think mid lane as well was probably the most unremarkable. I know that's really horrible, but it was just a lot of Orianna yesterday, right?
There were a lot of but it's just the nature of when Orianna's kind of like a safe, stable pick. Teams will just blind her reliably because, I mean, it's Orianna, right? You know what you're going to get. Zone control, big shockwave, safe laning, scaling. It's just a rounded mid lane at that. It's hard to go wrong with Orianna. So definitely a little bit boring, but hopefully we get a little more variety from our mid laners today. And then we did have a fair amount. We had some Zoe too. We had some Lucian.
Yeah, we talked a little bit as well about maybe Anivia, and Chimera is playing in the first game, so maybe that missile speed increase on the Q, good zone control obviously that offers, so it is a thing that we can keep in mind. And I think pocket picks are something to also keep in mind in a league, in a second division league. Playing strict meta might not always be the best way to play. Playing to your strengths rather than the meta strengths can also come up, so that's something I want to keep my eyes on, whether or not we do see some of these pocket picks come out. Obviously, this Resolve versus Enclave game is our first matchup of the day. My eyes coming into this game is actually going to be in the top side. Only Angel versus Artorias. I think these are two top laners with a lot to prove. And I'm really going to be tracking them in our first game of the day.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. You know, Only Angel has been around for an eternity. Artorias has been around for an eternity too. But, you know, Only Angel now, I think this is going to be his third split back on Enclave. So, you know, since he's been there, it's not been the best results. So he really does want to try and pick things up with this roster and the team. Otherwise, he wouldn't have stayed there for so long. So
there's obviously a level of faith from Only Angel to stay with the team for this long. He obviously, you know, has a good relationship with the team, but also understands what they're trying to achieve and is working towards that goal with them. So, you know, that level of loyalty, you know, you hope it kind of does get paid off for him, to be fair.
Yeah, you definitely do. And sort of looking across both the rosters, really. I mean, Cleanser also returning from summer, which is nice to see. I think he had a stint in Germany and in Div 1 there. And then, you know, sort of Soft Chimera returning, the duo. Everyone in the UK kind of knows and loves them together as that mid jungle. So yeah, there's a lot going on with both these rosters. I think yesterday though, my one sort of, I won't call it a red flag, my yellow flag, is for Yusa, because Yusa had some very curious Kai'Sa ultimates yesterday, ending up in multiple member situations where you don't really want to be there. You know, Gale Force is broken, but it's not getting you out of like 4-man, 5-man times.
He did jump into the bundle quite a lot on the AD carry. When you're the squishiest member, it's sometimes a little bit like, and that's kind of how Yusa's always played, hasn't it? He's always been on hero
the
or the inter. He always walks that very thin line, and sometimes it comes up big, sometimes it doesn't. In the end, it came up big for him. They was able to get that win for the team. So we'll have to see whether or not it's going to be enough for Resolve to get their second win, or if Enclave can find their first here in week 1 of the UKLC. We're going to cut to a quick break, and when we're back, we'll be back with our first game. So see you in a second. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the UKLC. We're getting ready to go into our first game of the day between Enclave and Resolve. Resolve obviously found a win yesterday, and Enclave unable to get their win versus Envision. But you can see this is what we got coming up today. I thought we had there's the one I wanted to talk about. We had a little talk about Artorias versus Only Angel. A little bit of the kind of mid jungle synergy on the side of Resolve as well. But I do want to talk a little bit more about this bot lane. Fastleg and Yusa versus Impulse and Sorex. Like you said earlier, just before the break, Yusa had a few moments that were a little... How do I put this politely?
Curious decision making inside of team fight would probably be
questionable.
You know, and he jokingly acknowledged it last night as well. He on Twitter, he knew it wasn't like the best performance in the world, but you know, hoping to up things for today's game, and we'll have to see, because Fastleg was playing a pretty spectacular game mid game onwards in those team fights, always kind of knowing where to be and what his role was, whether it was diving or peeling on that Alistar, and you know, sort of looking across to the Enclave bot lane. You know, full import bot lane, right? So normally when you're importing players from different regions, you expect that to be your strong, air quotes, stronger, or play two sort of players. So, you know, full import bot lane versus this very strong in the league bot lane in Yusa and Fastleg, I think it can definitely be a vocal point of this game.
Yeah, I think eyes really are on bot lane. Like you said, it's very bot-centric meta at the moment. We had our conversation with Denvoxing at the end of yesterday, and he was just like, yeah, Gale Force is actually just unbalanced at the moment. Yeah. I'm curious to see where the attention goes into the picks and bans as far as the bot lanes go. We saw a lot of Kaisers and Alistars kind of sneaking through. Do you feel like that might be something that these teams decide to maybe step away from and deny rather than kind of risk going through? Or do you think there's other AD carries or there's other picks that are just way too impactful at the moment and you kind of have to leave something open? Yeah,
I mean, it's normally on preference. Yusa's been a Kai'Sa player for as long as I've been around in the UK scene. So
yeah,
I would expect Resolve to still hold a fairly high amount of priority on that pick. In terms of generally speaking in the bot lane, you know, you still got Jhin, which we saw a couple of times yesterday, then Voxnay and Harry. Harry didn't have the best start. Towards the later ends of the stages of the game, you definitely saw him start to pop off. And then Voxnay in general just had a really spectacular performance on it. But there's MF, there's Leona, there's plenty of bot lane picks still in the meta. And I kind of expect that to stay that way for now.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. Right, we're into picks and bans though. Camille taking away the Seraphine. I think that had a 100% ban rate yesterday, actually. So not going to be seeing that again.
Yeah, definitely. And followed up by a Talia ban as well. Talia, I think we only saw played by PFI yesterday, which I'm excited to see this champion sort of be left up a little more and potentially be tried out by a few more of these teams, because it's a very exciting champion to watch for one, and it's also a very strong champion. So yeah. In response, Enclave, they want to also remove away the Pantheon. We saw Soft pilot that to pretty... He did a pretty good job, and then Graves also removed away with Olaf. So a lot of jungle bans, actually, 4 out of 6, and no attacking on the AD carry role from either team. So you could just see that be our first pick from Resolve.
You said it. They put a lot of high priority on it. Yusa's been playing it pretty much as long as he's been around, really. Kai'Sa is going to get picked up for him. And now moving over to Enclave. They obviously get their 2 picks for themselves here. Question is what do they want to go? Do they want to think about something like the Alistar, or is that maybe just a bit of a worry to kind of blind pick with things like the Fresh still up and available?
Yeah, so blinding Alistar isn't great. I don't mind the Leona pick, but this kind of just gives over the free option for Fastleg to just take his Alistar again. Samira in tandem, I mean, the lane is obviously strong, but into Kai'Sa Alistar, I'm not really too sold on this rotation, but of course, there is a lot of hype around the Samira pick in general. It can pop off. We didn't get to see that yesterday, but if it is given the space, it can definitely do some work here. As Hecarim for Soft, I would just expect that to be rounded out with Alistar. There's no reason to do anything else. And the hover.
Really nice rotation to kind of start off this game for Resolve as well with the Alistar, Hecarim, Kai'Sa. Really nice, solid picks. And obviously, they still got a lot of flexibility with their solo lanes. Over to Enclave now, they're looking to round out with their own jungler. They've got the same queue as Hecarim.
Both four-legged.
Yeah, they got 4 legs and their queue as they spin zone around their head.
Yeah, so a lot of interesting hovers here. I wouldn't mind the Lilia. I'd actually quite enjoy it here because Lilia can do quite well into compositions that dive into her, but away from that for now because we have seen the Renekton be locked in. Very strong flex. I'm sure Sykes can probably pilot this champion, but you'd expect it normally to end up in the top side of the map. So ban-wise, we probably see some, so something like Nara moved away, and maybe, I'm not too sure, maybe Enclave will go for a GP ban, but on the side of Resolve, I would probably expect to see Lilia plus another jungler removed away from Cleanser here.
All right, well, yeah, like you said, maybe the Lilia. There's so much jungle attention in the first half that, like, they could just ban out and really force Cleanser down the list a little bit. Yeah,
it's kind of curious, honestly, to see Enclave divot away from taking their jungler in R3 because, like you just said, look at the bans. There was 4 jungle bans just in phase 1, and Resolve, they're probably going to make that 6 come the end of phase 2. So Cleanser's going to have to dig deep. I'm sure he's got enough champions in his pool, but he is definitely going to have to go down that sort of perceived tier list of picks.
Yeah.
Chimera's not going to get his Syndra, which Syndra here definitely would have made for a very powerful mid-jungle, particularly once those level 6s are online. I'm
just thinking though, because yesterday when I talked about the Anivia, you were like, yeah, but Syndra is really good into it.
Oh.
Syndra's gone. I know I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but I really would like to see Chimera whip out the Anivia. There's the Elise ban away from Cleanser, so like you said, 6 jungle bans. I feel like Blind Anivia might be a little in though. Things like the Orianna are still open as well. So I feel like Sykes probably comfortably just wanting to pick up something like the Orianna for himself right now.
Yeah, so I mean, Sykes, I would expect Enclave to give their final pick actually to Sykes. It would make more sense to just take the jungler here.
True, right.
Just because you can see the Hecarim. So curious to see what Cleanser will actually pull out, how far down he'll go. Oh, wow, okay. They want the Orianna now.
Felt too comfortable.
Giving over the Ori, something honestly just kind of slid my mind. Orianna with this Resolve composition would be a little bit unfair. So I can actually see the point of view from Enclave to actually want to take that away. Because now it does kind of force the mid lane pool down a little bit. But you spoke about the Anivia. This wouldn't be a terrible time for it. Whether Chimera really feels comfortable in doing it, I'm not too sure.
There he is, the Galio. Okay.
Yeah,
that's even nicer. The Anivia is cool, right? But the Galio is really, really big here.
Yeah, so what I was about to allude to is Anivia, though, is kind of off theme with this first set of picks, right?
Yeah.
Kai'Sa, Hecarim, Alistar, what do they all have to do? They all have to dive forward. What can Galio do? Supplement that gameplay stat.
Yeah, I think they're just
guys, come on.
This is just running head first into a wall until it falls down. That's what Resolve put together there.
Well,
I love this.
Yeah, I am a fan of the Malphite pick. It can nullify the Renekton quite well, surprisingly. Malphite does have a lot of like trading damage in lane. Whether it can always match the Renekton, not necessarily. It kind of depends. But okay, I'd expect Cleanser's probably locking this Nidalee. Pairs really well just with that stun setup from the Renekton into a spear. It makes for easy dives. And then there's also setup on the bottom side. So, you know, it does definitely stray away from the kind of teamfight-esque or sort of objective skirmish composition that Enclave did have, but it still provides some of that utility. It still provides some of the sort of zone control and poke if you can take control of areas, which Orianna is really good at. So I'm okay with this pick, but you just look at the Resolve composition and it's like, we have our buttons. We want to go forward.
That is the level 6 puncher keyboard comp. That's what that is. I really like this actually. I want to talk to you a little bit about this Galio pick. I've been spamming Galio recently.
Okay.
I want to know what you feel the build path is here, because I've been going for the Night Harvester build path on Galio.
Spicy.
I've seen proto belts. I've seen a tankier build as well. I've seen loads of different builds. What do you think is actually the best one? Because I don't know if my build is the best build, quote unquote.
I mean, you know, Night Harvester's nice. You get a lot of additional burst damage, but I'd probably just expect the Rocket Belt to come out here.
Yeah. From
Chimera. It's just such a strong utility item. Getting that additional dash and then also the movement speed, which was added with the rework. You know, pressing the button and then getting about 40% movement speed bonus on top of just like things like Celery as well if you flashed. It's a big deal. Or Nimbus Cloak, sorry, not Celery. So, you know, it can be very oppressive, especially the Enclave composition is relatively short ranged. So it only really takes a Justice Punch realistically to get into range of most of this Enclave composition. So adding that additional mobility, it's going to be very scary for Enclave to deal with. And just in general, the Resolve frontline is absolutely huge.
It is a very very scary team to cut through. And questions for me going into this game is, what do Enclave need to do? Because Resolve, pretty simple. Their comp is hit 6, press R. Enclave, what is the game plan?
So, I mean, I think with Enclave, they've got 2 avenues to go through, right? They can either play through this Renekton lane. Malphite, whilst he can kind of hold Renekton by himself for the most part, dealing with a stacked wave plus a Nidalee diving you underneath the tower, it's a hard situation to actually survive. So, you know, Cleanse could opt into early pathing towards the top side, and then on the flip side, he could, if he wants to, he can path towards the Samira lane. But with Alistar being present, with Leona there, it's not always going to be the easiest gank setup in the world, especially this time. Yusa's learned his lesson. He's running Cleanse, unlike yesterday.
Thank God.
Yeah,
thank God. That is actually... I'm fairly certain I lost like 4 years of my life due to stress of him running heal yesterday. Genuinely hard to watch.
It wasn't pretty. And then also the expectation is that Soph is likely going to path down towards this lane anyway, because, I mean, let's be real, pathing towards a Malphite lane, it's not the smartest idea in the world.
Yeah.
So trying to take a 3v3 with that specific set of champions is probably not ideal. And we're going to see Soph start on the blue, and I'd expect probably just a full clear all the way down.
Well, both starting off on the top side of the map, both Cleanser and Soph. See what Cleanser's going to look to do here on the Nidalee. Probably not really going to want to invade right now. Yeah,
it's kind of worrying though, because depending on how Cleanser actually paths off of red, he could realistically end up getting double scuttled. I'm unsure on how the priority in the bottom lane is going to go, but I would expect if Yusa and Fastlegged want to take priority, they probably will be able to. And if Soft's down there, it'll definitely be a winning 3v3. And with Galio in the mid lane, it definitely runs the risk of potentially having to give up a double skull early, which not fun. Level 2 hit first though.
That is the Ali and the Kai'Sa combo, being able to stack up those passive stacks nice and easily.
Yeah.
Chimera now getting level 2, mainly for a bit of magic shield to deal with some of this poke. Orianna versus Galio is pretty rough in the early levels. Seeing the Predator as well, so this is definitely all about that movement speed and getting onto the team.
Yeah, that's right. It's I think the most popular Keystone choice now. Of course, we had a couple of iterations over the years of Galio where sometimes we had the full AP variant, and then we had the full, aftershock into, like, I can't even remember what the tank item was that they went first. Stuff like Abyssal Mask and what have you.
Yeah, I think it was like Abyssal Mask aftershock.
Yeah, and it was just impossible to cut through him, but we are seeing this very nice rotation.
Goes in for the taunt. Soph was not ready for that.
Yeah, a little bit of miscommunication. I mean, it's still flash for flash, which will leave Orianna very vulnerable.
And Ghost.
Yeah, Soph ghosted, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
But
to be fair, losing the flash on the Ori is actually quite nice. Not nice for
Ori.
It's nice for Resolve, because flashless Orianna is a susceptible Orianna to getting jumped onto. And with them able to get this prio here in the mid lane, Chimera and Soph are able to two-man their way into Cleanser, although Cleanser actually is first ones to move down with only Angel at his back.
Yeah.
Soph's going to get chunked out, and this is just going to be that crab picked up, although multiple members collapsing. This is a 3 versus 2. Cleanser slowed down by the shard.
They're on the wrong side of the map.
Only Angel gets himself taunted up. Chimera should just be able to take him down. Gets a big heal, actually, and that's first blood already picked up. Enclave able to get it. Taurus is chasing only Angel, trying to find that last kill. Is able to get it, but Cleanser gets himself a double kill. And Taurus is the only one standing. That just went horrific for Resolve.
Yeah, so this is what I was talking about earlier, where this could potentially turn into a double skull for Resolve, right? But Cleanser manages to find himself in the river first, and does end up landing the spear, and it turns into a very messy skirmish where, well, honestly, it's just the early skirmishing power of Renekton and the fact that he had first move, Artorias didn't have priority, and it was initial numbers advantage. And they end up piling it well. It's not really Artorias' fault being shoved under the lane, but it's just something Resolve probably should have just known, should have just backed off from, and they don't, they commit, they end up trading 2 for 1. Not the best start in the world, especially 2 kills going over to a Nidalee. We've seen Nidalees in the past take over games with much smaller leads than this, so eyes on Cleanser now, really.
Really is. And that was a greedy play by Soft because he took Crab bot side as well. And just decided he wanted to go for a little bit more. So overall, just maybe not exactly what they wanted to see. Boots now picked up for Chimera, so has that Predator to work with and a Dark Seal on top of that. No base has come forward for Yusa at the moment. Just quite happy farming up and is going to finally take a base for himself. So he builds in towards here. His Impulse is the double longsword. Wanting to get that Noon Quiver. But Yusa actually now having to hang around because they want to break this freeze. Although Sorex doesn't know they've left the base right now or left the recall right now. So could potentially be in a little bit of hurt if he gets caught out.
Yeah, a very interesting decision from Impulse here to actually want to try and stack the wave back.
They know Ward's there. That's a weird position for Soft as well, actually.
It's a very peculiar situation. I mean, they obviously expected the Resolve bot lane to have been recalling, but look at this.
The flash, the headbutt, they don't even care.
Yeah.
Impulse knocked back and Yusa cashes in on the kill. Stun connects into Sorex as well. We'll take a stack from Yusa. Chunking him out pretty healthily there. And Resolve cancel their base, get a kill. They can be happy with that one.
Yeah, nice play on Fog and just sort of expectations from Enclave, right? When the Resolve bot lane not there for that long, it's like, well, okay, they must have just based. No one expects the 30-second brush waiting time of Yusa and Fastleg there, so it's just a very nice read. And I'm not entirely sure why Impulse and Sorex decided to sort of shove the wave back out when they'd already reset, but it's the decision they make. They pay for it. Very nice setup gank from Soft, but on the back end of it, it's going to be Cleanser starting up this Cloud Dragon, and with multiple Resolve members in base, this should just be a pretty free pickup.
I'm gonna be honest, this is actually a really nice Drake to deny if you're Enclave right now. Not only is it the first one and it gets the snowball going, but the thing we were talking about with Resolve is their comp is an R-key comp. They want to be able to have 6 as much as possible and use that as physically as much as they can. Chimera on this Galio actually has a very long cooldown, so 10% off that is actually a fairly significant amount of time in the long terms of things. Well, in the larger picture. So pretty nice denial there. Normally Cloud Drake, one we look down on a little bit, but Enclave getting that nice and early is big. As Cleanser has been spotted out by Soft. Soft's gonna step out. He's actually just moved into Fog of War. Cleanser, he smelt a rat. He backed off straight away, and Soft is just gonna take this big chicken away.
Yeah, very small thing. There's a nice little bit of fog manipulation there, just hugging the wall so that when Soft came around the corner, it was going to be pretty impossible for Cleanser to see him unless he was on top of the red buff. It's still away the chicken camp, but not the red buff. So, not the full prize for the Resolve jungler, but I'm sure he's probably not complaining either way. As Fastleg actually rotated up here for this Rift Herald, and looks like Resolve want their hand in the cookie jar first. And honestly, Enclave aren't really in a position to contest this. I mean, they might expect it happening now, but they certainly weren't thinking that Fastleg would be up here at the very least, as it seems their attention is more drawn towards Artorias and trying to make a top gank happen. Oh, and yeah.
He just ults away to safety. You're not going to catch it. Quite hard to catch the Malphite. Does at least force the ulti out from him. That puts that on cooldown for the moment.
Yeah.
Crowd gets picked up by Soft.
Honestly, it's a very clean take from Resolve. They know Nidalee's top side, and she's not going to be bot side to either pressure Yusa or return a cross-map play for the jungle camps. So as soon as that invade's done, Soft, I think he took his blue buff and then just went straight for the Herald with Fastleg there for support. So very clean stuff. Checkmark in my book from Resolve, or for Resolve. Things will probably quieten down until the next dragon, though level 6s have long been ticked over, so I'm curious to see where Resolve will maybe want to try and make a proactive play happen.
As we do hit this 10-minute mark, we do look at the gold and the items that are starting to come through. Hextech Alternator picked up onto Cleanser, so actually it adds a fair amount of early burst to that spear, especially with the fact you got the blasting one to go along with it. Full upgrade on the boots for Chimera. Wants to be able to move out the lane as much as possible with that Predator and find a big ultimate. Sheen onto Soft and double Noon Quivers in the bot lane, but overall for the moment, it's just components, no mythics, no first items have been finished up. And I think both of these teams are probably quite content just to chill and farm for a little bit more before they look for a big skirmish.
Yeah, I'm still wondering Well, I say wondering. I sort of want to talk on the Nidalee build a little bit because we've seen anybody that was on Twitter last night, especially watching the LCS, there's been a lot of talk around champions that can run Moonstone, Renewer. Nidalee being one of them potentially, especially in pro play. Nidalee's always kind of been a weird champion where people don't really know whether they want to go full damage or more utility-based builds. And Nidalee is actually a pretty good user of Moonstone for the most part, so... Well, interesting to see Cleanser go for the more damage-orientated build, but when you pick up an early double kill like this, snowballing is probably more prominently on your mind than providing utility.
Yeah, Nidalee is an odd champion, actually. Like you said, the kind of build paths of her have been so varied. It is the Night Harvester build, so that's actually our first mythic of the game. So Cleanser is going to be doing an extremely high amount of damage at the moment with that Night Harvester. But she's always kind of been like a burst champion who then later turned into a poke.
Yeah, that's right.
Champion who was also slightly support, like a pseudo support as well.
Yeah, it's kind of... She had a bit of an unfortunate preseason with... what's the name of the Iron, which is no longer with us? Affine's, yes.
Yeah.
With Affine's being removed, and also just Runic Echoes too. She had a very nice sort of spiked build path, which it's not really present anymore, but back on the game, you can see Artorias is rotated down here, and Resolve really posturing for river control. They definitely want the second dragon, it seems. They don't want to give up this ocean to Enclave, but they don't have bottom lane priority. They forced 4 members through mid on that side. Yusa is coming out of base. He will have Killer Instinct, but it's not the longest range in the world. So eyes on who the target selection is for from Resolve with these ultimates. Yeah.
Sykes has made his way into the bush. Yusa flanking. Now the teleport coming in from the Renekton. And there's the big ulti to knock up 2 into the Galio. This is the wombo combo. Chimera, a 3-man taunt. And Yusa just free firing around the sideline. Chimera will lose his life here as he gets caught out by the Justice Punch. And Impulse jumps in with the Blade Well. All of a sudden, Resolve, it's gone wrong. The Infernal trigger's on. And Impulse finds a double kill. It just went horrifically bad for Resolve.
Yeah, honestly, I'm kind of lost here. I'll need to see a replay. The initial engage was definitely spectacular, but there was no usage of the Hecarim ultimate on top of all of this, so there wasn't the full sort of CC coming out from this Resolve composition. But Sykes definitely dropped very fast, and I believe only Angel was also the other casualty, unless it was just a one. I have got my memory for this fight.
Well, you can see it again. Let's have
let's take a look. So we can see Artorias flash ultimate finds both the carries here. The Galio ultimate follow up is almost immediate, and it's the shockwave on the backside that stops Fastleg and Soft from immediately participating in this fight. And it's why Soft holds onto the Onslaught of Shadows, because he just doesn't really feel like he has a good time to use it, potentially, would be my guess. And off the back of that, Enclave are just kind of able to turn, and Impulse eventually also stacks up the style points system from its passive, gets the ultimate off. And it's just the Sykes ultimate, the Shockwave, that kind of just staggers the full engage there from Resolve and wins them the fight. That's a nice flash blown on this Orianna now. Going to be very vulnerable if there is another big skirmish, but very well played from Enclave on the back end of that.
Yeah.
But you can see the potential of this Resolve, sort of shotgun comp.
There was the potential there, and the potential just wasn't hit. And I think Enclave did a really good job of making a bad situation suddenly go very favorably for them. They're 2 Drakes up. They just got a massive team fight win. Sure, the gold is only 1,100 between both of these teams, or 1,200. It's kind of going back and forth a little bit. Bit of a gold lead in the mid lane, 300 gold over there. There is an 80 carry lead for Yusa though, so he does have some gold to work with. And building a bit of a weird build. He has a Serrated in his inventory. Got a bit of both the items he wants first at the same time.
So this is more or less just some math stuff. Once he finishes up his Mythic with that Dirk in his inventory, he should just end up getting his Ecaphian Rain upgrade just straight off the bat.
Yeah.
I believe that's why we do see some Kaisers not build directly into Gale Force or Kraken Slayer immediately, and they'll have that Serrated Dirk in their inventory. It's just to get that evolution out sooner. I mean, actually, I'm not entirely sure on the maths, but depending on what level he is, he might already actually just have the upgrade.
Come on, Yusa, press Q.
I think he does.
We'll see when he presses Q. Come on, user.
No, he has it. He has
that's
it. Because the bar's above the
oh, it is.
supercharger,
You're right.
but it's not above Q. So there you go. That's why the math is there.
Well,
Enclave,
Rift Herald picked up. Enclave are actually just going to take this tower. They're not going to charge it up yet.
But
They just want to use it on the other side of the map, and this has forced Enclave's bot lane away from the wave and from the tower.
Yeah, it's temporarily a split map where it's Artorias that has to respect one side and Impulse and Sorex that have to respect the other. Both parties doing a pretty good job of not dying to the weak side, please.
Well, bases are coming through. You can see the goal graph on your screen right now between both of these teams. It's been pretty up and down, but for the most part, Enclave have been the team to hold it. That spike obviously coming off the back of that team fight. A few dips here and there as Resolve have done a pretty decent job of keeping themselves relevant right now. Only 16 minutes in, the gold lead 1,000 between them, so nothing major. We can take stock of where we are item-wise, though. Leandri's finished up onto Sykes. The shield bow onto Impulse. You got the Night Harvester, the Gore Drinker, getting picked up by Only Angel and Cleanser. On the other side, though, Artorias still hasn't got his Sunfire Cape. Not that it's called a Sunfire Cape anymore.
Yeah, Sunfire Aegis now.
That's the one.
That's so weird. We'll get used to it one day.
On User as well here. So this is no Gale Force. This is I will cut through people like nothing build.
Yeah, and I do have to say, now we're approaching the third dragon. Resolve haven't, 16 minutes in, still talking about like greater points in the game, right? We're past the 15-minute mark, we're getting close to the 20-minute mark, and Resolve are yet to really make something happen with this composition. We obviously saw the last dragon fight, they almost had a very successful ultimate, but it was stifled, or an ultimate play on you got a very proactive team.
They're looking for fight. Sorex is just going to lose his life. Actually has to flash away. Goes to the Zenith Blade, but the Justice Punch from Chimera will catch him out.
Yeah.
That's now one of the kind of chunky frontliners dead for Enclave, and this might just be Resolve getting this dragon for free here.
Yeah, this is a very dangerous dragon for Enclave to now contest because it's Resolve with the river priority, and then they have to walk into chokes versus this team composition. Good luck doing that. Rightfully trying to drop the Rift Herald in the mid lane, but they're actually just going to leave it pretty unguarded. Still going to get its charge off, but definitely not the full value. But, it's very hard to keep the likes of a Galio and an Alistar away and sort of guard or gate the Resolve players away from letting it charge in. It's going to be that Mountain Dragon picked up for Resolve. So they do at least deny the Mountain Snowball. But one thing I was going to touch on before we saw that pick was Resolve's composition is pretty beefy. And it's only really Yusa that's going to have like late game upfront damage. Of course, Hecarim does scale okay. I don't think he's going to scale fantastically in this game. So Soft's really going to have to try and find some pretty big ultimates to make up for it as time goes on. But if Yusa does die somehow early on, I can see problems arising, but Soft really wants this.
Yeah, they are going really hard here. Taurus does have the Arky if he needs to throw it down, as in comes the heroic entrance. Cleanser flashes away. They do get the taunt off, and Sorex caught in the middle of everyone. Sykes is trying to cover the walls. Impulse has the Infernal Trigger. Knock up onto one. Yusuf dives straight onto the backline. So much damage from the Kraken's Lair, and he finds himself the shutdown. Sorex will lose his life as well. A two-man shockwave, but Yusa not caught out and nice and safe. But Only Angel does flash over the wall to try and get him. Yusa has to flash away. Only Angel now on tidy up duty as Soft loses his life to Cleanser. And the health bars are low on Resolved. Yeah. And Enclave, they are just itching for blood.
Yeah, and it's Resolved that go for that. They do come out on top, 2 kills to 1. Oh, no.
Azorius is...
He's out. He's got it. Oh, all right.
He's all right.
Yeah, he's good. He's very good. And yeah, I mean, Enclave, I guess that was just Resolve's strong side of the map. Just not quite enough respect there from Cleanser, and I believe it was Sykes. We'll get a replay. No, Sorex. And just clearing out vision. You can see Artorias right behind Soft and Galio Chimera on the top side of your screen. And what saves Cleanser from dying here is, it's not necessarily intentional, I don't think, but look at the Galio ultimate and the time that he comes out of stasis. If he gets clipped by that ultimate, he for sure dies in the middle of all of this. And Only Angel in the middle of everybody It's going to be pretty hard for him to die with this beefy team composition. You can see he zones away Chimera and Fastleg. They're not able to really get into this fight. On the bottom side, does a great job there. Meanwhile, on the back side of the fight for Enclave, it's Yusa on Impulse and on Sorex with the help of Artorias and Soft. The Shockwave's nice and kind of just tempers the fight back into Enclave's favor. And from this point on, it's pretty much just Resolve on retreat duty. Soft isn't quite able to get out. He sacrifices himself, says, it's okay, guys. I will die for the cause.
We're seeing Yusa now finished up the Collector.
Yeah.
So 2 items onto him, and feels like the go button is still there for Resolve. They still have that big kind of wombo combo they can execute on. Stopwatch is now broken on Cleanser. Flash is now burnt. So the opportunity to find that shutdown and take out this Nidalee once and for all is there. Yusa is doing damage. You saw how much damage he did with the empowered auto attack from the Kraken Slayer. I think there was a crit as well in that.
Yeah.
It was pretty nasty.
So
Impulse got melted.
He's 2 levels up on Impulse right now. He's really found himself a lot of CS in this game. Or, I beg your pardon, really. Oh! Alright. Well.
That is just horrific.
Okay, now imagine if he had Gale Force, right? I mean, I guess that was a Kraken Slayer war, so it doesn't really count. But, you know...
That's the swings and roundabouts of the Kaiser is. Kraken Slayer gives you a lot of damage, and Gale Force gives you a lot of safety and potential assassination with double dashes, or triple dashes in Kaiser's point. Taurus is hanging over the wall, but I think he's just kind of threatening the dive, forcing them away from the turret, and that will be the turret, picked up for Resolve. And the Angel is going to answer out towards his bot side, but he needs to answer out quick because there are 5 people running towards him now, and I think he's just going to die for the tower.
Do you hear sirens? I hear sirens.
Slowed down by the seismic shard, and Notorious is just laying in some friendly auto attacks.
Yeah, let's
to make sure Yusa can make his way in.
Yeah. And only Angel just wanted to commit for this, and it's nice timing. Enclave aren't really able to respond in kind with much outside of just a little bit of moderate vision control on the top side of the map, but it's, you know, it's not really much to care about if you're Resolved, because you're probably going to be looking towards this Mountain Dragon in 30 seconds anyway.
Yeah.
So very nice pick. Definitely a bit of a misread on the map from Only Angel. You could maybe say that about him a couple of times yesterday too. It's not the first time. Bit of a tendency, perhaps, moving forward, but... Cleanser has finished up his Zhonya's, so he's going to be able to survive any kind of immediate burst attempts from this Resolve lineup. And crucially, there were no R's burnt, picking Only Angel on the bottom side. Sorex is in potential trouble. But...
Yeah, Yusa not really willing to commit the R. Didn't know where Sykes was, could just ult into a shockwave, so... smartly decides not to go for the assassination on the support. Obviously, Dragon being up in a pick onto Yusa would be devastating for Resolve, and he's going to have to play this pretty smart. Has got the cleanse, doesn't have flash, and with no Gale Force, the only dash he can rely on is that Killer Instinct. Taurus waiting off in the blind spots. Sykes will look to spot him out, though. And
oh, look at Chimera. Look at this angle.
Chimera positioning beautifully on that sideline. Who's going to go in? Soft, pop the Ghost into the stun, getting locked down as they do get an ultimate onto the backline. Yusa looking for Sykes. The Shockwave's not even going to be used as a heroic entrance. Does land onto Sorex. Only Angel trying to get onto that backline. But the backline is soft because Yusa, he's on the front line with the tanks, baby, and Sorex is forced to flash away. Impulse, combo Brill up, but can't get into the play, can't get into the fight. Enclave will lose another team fight, and they will lose a second Mountain Dragon. These resistances are starting to stack up hard.
Yeah, and it's actually a above average value Mountain Dragon because, I mean, there's effectively 4 tanks on the side of Resolve, so all of these bonus resistances will begin to stack up. And yeah, very nice fight from Resolve. And you would have heard me talking a lot about yesterday the importance of river control and teams having to fight inside of chokes. And, you know, a team composition like Resolve's, you don't want to be the one fighting into chokes versus it. And it was just a very nice job by them to make sure they were in the river first and have it be Enclave to have to check into Resolve because, you know, I mean, Resolve have kind of the luxury of having so much engaged that it might not necessarily matter, but having to force Enclave into fewer choices on how they fight is more or less the important thing. And just being there first, you saw Chimera sort of sitting over the wall on blue buff. He didn't quite have flash if you're wondering why he didn't go over the wall. immediately. He had to wait for his ultimate instead. Did have Predator, so he could have technically walked all the way around, but still a one-sided fight nonetheless.
Yeah. I do want to just talk a little bit about why this is so one-sided. Look at the items in the bot lane. Impulse still sitting on that shield bow. 2 of the 3 components towards his collector. Yusa, on the other hand, Hurricane, Collector, Kraken Slayer.
Yeah, this guy is huge right now. I don't even really feel like huge does that any justice. That's a pretty big item discrepancy.
Upgraded on the Acafian Rain and the Supercharge as well. So getting the maximum use out of 2 of his abilities at the moment. And it does feel like Enclave, they've got to climb an uphill battle now.
Yeah, it's definitely pretty uphill from here. It's going to be very, very hard to fight into this Resolve draft, but there certainly are ways to deal with it. Particularly, quite a few champions don't mind the dive aspect of this Resolve lineup, but it's just about surviving that initial burst and being able to set yourself up for success in surviving that initial burst. So if Enclave can find themselves in the river first at some of these neutrals, it'll definitely up their chances of surviving some of these engages. But if they are the ones that have to check into the river, they have to sit in chokes. It's Resolve controlling these areas where Enclave, they have to kind of bunch up temporarily if they want to enter certain areas of the map. Then you're always going to see Resolve probably coming out on top for the immediate future in these fights. We'll see if Enclave can overcome this very difficult position they find themselves in.
Yeah, it's difficult, but it's not impossible. We've seen them win a few fights where they get caught out. Soft actually gets shockwaved onto, instantly dived in, uses the ulti back. Yeah. That was 2 ultis burnt for Softs are.
This is like kind of the annoying part about trying to catch almost every tank member, or actually just every member bar Chimera, really. They all have safety dashes, or in Alistar's case, he can knock whoever's up on top of him, press his Archie, and then it takes an eternity to kill him.
Yeah, I mean, with the Alistar, he dashes you.
Yeah, he dashes you. So it's so hard. Even if somebody you just saw their soft pretty much face checked into 3-4 members, he got CC'd, but he didn't die in the CC, so he just pressed his Archie. Same thing for Artorias. The same thing for Yusa, except he of course doesn't have the same level of resistances and base stats to keep him alive.
Yeah. The Hysterix was burnt as well there for Soft. He had a pretty meaty shield on at the end. But also on fairly short cooldown now, so it's not really the end of the world. Artorias is actually looking for Only Angel, gets him with the ultimate. Yusa slides in. And now Only Angel just melting to Yusa. Is able to jump away a bit. It's a supercharge forward from Yusa, gives him a bit of movement speed. They're going to slow him down and look to chase over as the Hex Flash comes in. Fast fails it. Yusa is in a whole world of trouble now. And Sykes is looking for him. They do throw the Galio ult down to keep him alive as Chimera just Justice punches to safety. Soft. Ultimate not quite up as the Solar Flare is used on to Chimera. Chimera able to Proto Belt away to the edge so he's not stunned, just slowed. And Resolve able to get away.
Not sure if this fight's quite done. Both teams kind of sort of jesting with each other about whether they want to re-engage. Oh, I beg your pardon. Re-engage there. But yeah, I mean, the idea from Resolve, I think, is relatively sound. Trying to make a pick onto Only Angel on what is technically the weak side, but Resolve aren't really in position to respond fast or first if Only Angel doesn't die first, which he didn't. And here, face check.
Has got that shield to work with from the Serix. The 2-man knockup from Fastleg. Chimera's coming in on the flank. Fastleg standing in the middle of the team. They do have that charge from Stoff if he needs to use it. The Winds of War just going to do a little bit of poke damage here. Yusa remains pretty healthy.
Enclave
this might just be the third dragon given over to Resolve.
Yeah,
they force Enclave out.
Yeah, honestly, if the ultimate's a backup from Resolve, that's it's a terrible place for Enclave to fight. And actually, one thing, we don't often get to see the Rift actually make much a impact, right? The Elemental Rift.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's a mountain actually creates more chokes for Enclave to have to sort of work around here. So the fact that that wall was kind of pushed out meant that Enclave were in a slightly worse position than normal, where it be, say, an ocean or perhaps a cloud rift. But yeah, I mean,
the gold graph on your screen as well right now is coming back in favor of Resolve. It's only a 100 gold lead, though. So it's still a very close game. And if we quickly toggle the gold, you'll probably see a lot of the money for Resolve right now is on Yusa. He's got a 3,000 lead over Impulse. He's sitting on a lot of items. We toggle back. He's got, obviously, the Collector, the Hurricane, the Kraken Slayer, Stopwatch. I didn't see how much money he had in his inventory, but I'm assuming he's pretty close towards the base. So he's got 2k gold, so...
If he,
towards his GA,
GA? Yeah, GA. If he's got Stopwatch, I mean, you could just get the Iron Completion now. It'd probably be one of the more gold-efficient things. I don't expect it to be anything else, yeah. I don't think GA was
the smart thing when Yusuf recognizes that he is the carry for the team. If he dies, they lose all damage.
Yeah, it's
not all
damage,
damage,
it's a good pickup.
But majority.
I love these guys. Thank you, Soft and Fastleg. I appreciate this. I mean, they don't have anything better to do right now, so if you're wondering why. Well,
Yusa's basing, so the team doesn't have anything to function without Yusa about, so you might as well play the cowbell.
Yeah, exactly.
Teleport in. One thing to note as well is this is a very quick Baron from Resolve. Yusa with that Kraken Slayer and his passive will melt it. It will go so fast.
Yeah, it definitely can be if they're left unattended too. And I mean, you just saw the vision toggle. There's no vision from Enclave. Further than, well, this chicken brush, really. So they are really working in primary darkness. Oh, someone's on the Baron. There you go.
Yeah, they're just looking to two-man it.
Yeah,
no information that one is going on as just pretending to still hold the ward line. If we toggle back to the Baron, though, you'll see
probably about 6.
Already half health. Yusa is just cutting through it with that Kraken Slayer, and it's too slow. Enclave are just not going to make their way in time. They can't get through this front line as Baron Nashor gets picked up, and Chimera waiting for a big taunt. The belt in. That's the big upgrade. That's the ulti. There's the combo. A shutdown already into the shockwave on a 4 by Sykes. Yusa's still untouched, though, as they charge into Only Angel. Sorex gets a big shield from Sykes. 2 quick kills picked up for Resolved, as well as the Baron. They should look to try and use this to crack open the base.
Yeah, and Vision is just denied so far up by Resolve that Enclave have to spend so much time face checking, and we saw there it was just Soft and Yusa on the Baron, nobody else. So everybody realistically just on bodyguard duty, and if Enclave ever bunch up and saw a face check like they did, the snap engage is there. The response is pretty much instant. Only Angel.
I think Only Angel wants out. That's a lot of healing from the Gore Drinker, but he will lose his life to Yusa.
Anyway, moving on. Resolve now firm control of this game. Mid lane inhibitor is gone for Enclave, and really they can just do whatever they want on the map at this point in the game. If they want to just all open out on bot side and just secure this Mountain Soul, realistically it's probably theirs now. Enclave lineup can't really keep up with so much bursty frontline. And that can be the issue when you run Nidalee. We saw Cleanser had a pretty good start, but, you know, 3 full tanks, technically, and a bruiser, and only 1 carry on the side of Resolve when you're just a little kitty cat. It's not easy.
Well, the vision's getting cleared out. Looks like Resolve actually playing this safe here. They've still got that Baron on all of their members, but their attention is actually towards getting this Dragon spawning up in 45 seconds time. Get the soul. 4 Mountain Soul is big, but Cleanser might be in a little bit of trouble here. Getting jumped onto. Has to flash away to safety, and meanwhile the rest of the team just cracking away at this tier 2 in the bottom lane. Got a big wave to push in with here as well. Yusa does get a big chunk from that spear. Chimera's just holding mid lane and making sure that wave also will shove in.
Yeah, just doing a good job of breaking most of the wave, and 2 cannon minions here means that the tower will drop pretty quickly. Only Angel doing his best to clear it out. He will eventually kill it. But it's only a matter of time now. With that tower being so low, you feel almost kind of a matter of time until Enclave might just end up folding over. They need a miracle fight. It's about the only way.
There's the miracle engage. Down goes 1 already. They throw everything on top of Yusa. Sorex can't do anything. Stopwatch is burnt, but Yusa will just be able to collect that kill after getting locked down a little bit more. Double kill for Yusa. Only Angel now caught out and locked down. There's 3 members are full, and Impulse pulls out the Infernal Trigger. It's too little, it's too late, and Yusa is just continuing to fire away, melting through members. Impulse getting chunked out so fast.
Oh no.
As they
Guys.
are going for it. They are going for it.
Guys.
Oh no! Impulse! Was that a quad? That was a quad! Chimera!
Oh,
Can he do this?
I don't know.
Chimera's trying to close the game. Can Impulse find the pentakill? He's not quite got the combo built up yet. And he is smashing through. The Inferno trigger's been used, but Impulse is actually slowed down. Chimera's trying to take out the stop, which has been used. The minions are firing away. As Chimera is trying to make the hero play. Everybody's respawned. A pentakill for Impulse. And the Nexus survives. Why did you troll me like that, Resolve?
Okay, right. Naturally, I really want to make some jokes here, but this, I mean, the game's probably still over, right? But the implication still is Resolve are more than likely going to lose this Mountain Dragon. Second pentakill of the UKLC split. We're 2 days in, by the way. And yeah, it's just going to slow down the game. I mean, the Nexus is so low that I feel like Resolve could probably just walk in and...
I mean, Soft can surely just ghost in, right?
Yeah. Oh,
they're not giving it up. They're actually trying to get them in. Fastlane, sorry, Quentin's going to get knocked away. Soft's making his way over. Does have the ultimate to clear the wall if he needs to. There's the big engage. There's the wipeout. Yusa slides in. Lockdown instantly. As only Angel is just headbutted away and Notorious finds the kill. Impulse, maybe another miracle pentakill could get built up here. Chimera's joined in and Yusa's found himself a double kill. No Impulse. Not today. A triple kill for Yusa. A Mountain Soul for Resolve. And maybe now they should just close the game.
Okay. I think they're gonna try and kill Sykes.
No, please. If we get another pentakill.
They're gonna try and kill Sykes. I can feel it in my bones. They're not gonna...
Oh, they're doing it. They are actually doing it. Sykes doesn't have shockwave. No, they're closing. They're closing. Thank God. Oh, my Lord. Resolve adding a little bit more time than needed maybe in that game. But they are able to find themselves the win over Enclave after gifting a very friendly pentakill to Impulse.
Yeah.
I want to say a really solid win, but there were a few mistakes. Obviously, they were having fun. Obviously, they knew they had that game in the bag. They were having fun. And I don't think, even with that pentakill, there was really enough for Enclave to pull that game back.
No.
But,
the game was way too far gone. I feel like the Resolve composition was just too front heavy for Enclave to deal with. They didn't really have any true tank busters, and you know, we saw Cleanser get off to a really good start, but that's the thing with the Nidalee pick into a composition like that, especially you get the ball rolling, you have to keep it rolling, and he never really found more avenues to expose in Resolve, so kind of just fell to the wayside in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, I mean, that was game one to open up for the second day of the UKLC. Now, guys, we are going to throw to a quick break, and when we're back, we'll break their game down a little bit more and have an interview, so we'll see you in a second. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the UKLC. Game 1 was, to be fair, it was close, and then it went very one-sided towards Resolve, and then they kind of threw it in the last few moments and closed it out anyway, because it was, like you said, the game was a little bit too far gone, all things considered. I think the big thing for me there was Yusa was just so big. That was the hero Yusa that we used to get regularly. Back like Diabolus Yusa, like
do you know what that
long
was?
ago.
Do you know what that was, Jake? That was Rookie of the Split User.
That was Rookie of the Split User. That's been a while. That's been a while since I heard that one. But yeah, I mean, overall, pretty good stuff from the side of Resolve. I think it kind of fell down to one of those things that I'm so sick of saying it, but the ease of execution. I'm so sick of saying it, but it was just punch R and you get a team fight.
Look, it will feel like litany, but eventually teams will just get it. You draft easy to execute comps.
Yeah.
And you put less pressure on your players to like win. And it was pretty much the same pattern we saw yesterday. I think most of the easier to play compositions ended up winning out. It was a trend during an LC fall as well. It is just kind of an easy way out sometimes of putting a barrier to winning the game. So
yeah.
You know, props to Resolve for the ultimate shotgun composition, really.
I think question to me now at this point is what teams do we think have what it takes to challenge Resolve? Because Resolve are looking like one of the strongest teams.
Yeah.
Do you think maybe the Resolve Envision when that happens is going to be enough, or do you just think Resolve look that good that they could just completely smurf the competition?
Yeah, I think we still need to see a little bit more out of some of these rosters. I think, you know, coming into this, Enclave definitely one of the sort of more underrated rosters potentially. Very unfortunate, obviously, now that makes them 0-2 after this loss in the opening week. Hopefully for them, they can pick things up. But, you know, they've also played M&M, Resolve have. And that game it was pretty much down to the wire.
Yeah.
So I'd expect when we do get that in the round 2, that it could potentially be close again. But if Resolve actually play out a game like that cleanly, then I can see M&M very easily falling to the wayside too. So, yeah, I'm not sure, because Enclave M&M I would have had pegged as some of the stronger rosters in this league. So Resolve. And
I mean, to be fair, these could just be week 1 hiccups. A lot of these rosters are fairly new to each other. It's been a long off season, so you know this is just week 1. This is Resolve looking very strong in week 1, and maybe later down the line we'll see a bit more of a challenge versus Resolve. But we actually do have the man we spoke to yesterday, actually, Artorius, standing by for an interview. So Artorius, how you doing, mate? You all right?
Yeah, pretty good. Yeah, nice to be back.
I mean, I'm not going to talk about the pentakill because it's pretty obvious. You guys are just
I'm throwing the blame on Emre for that one 100%.
I do.
It's so close to not happening. It was so close to Camara just closing that game. Was there a point where you just we just win every team fight from here? Because it just felt like there was a point where you just started pressing R and you just won.
Yeah, I think it was when Kaiser and Hecarim both had 2-level leads on their opponents. So it was just sort of, we're just so far ahead at this point. But honestly, we knew that was how the game was going to go out. I mean, the moment they locked Nidalee, like the game was over, I think, in my mind.
That's fair.
Yeah, no, I can totally see that from an ex-coach position. You know, you have this really dive-heavy composition, which you're most likely going to round out with just like a team fighting comp in general. Actually, no, the Nidalee was R5, so yeah, I don't.
Yeah, I mean, we had two counter pick lanes on blue side in solo. I don't know. It was a pretty easy game, I think.
There you go. What have we been saying? You get an easy composition, the game normally ends out easy.
Yeah, so obviously, for you guys looking at top, that's where the expectations lie for you guys. You want, you know, you at least want to make it to finals. We were talking briefly about maybe the 2 of the teams that we thought could challenge you. Obviously, we still got Envision to go as well.
Yeah.
But like, what teams do you think are going to be a challenge, or do you just think this is going to be a clean sweep? Like, I really want to know if you've got a team you're like, okay, we really need to make sure we put the time in and prep.
I mean, I said top 2 besides myself yesterday. I think I said it live as Enclave and London. But I'm going to be honest, after the game yesterday, we felt like it's a bit of a knock. You know, you feel your prep's going well, and then you're like, oh, maybe it wasn't going as well as we thought it was. But I think now that we've gotten through the first week, honestly, I'll be surprised if we drop a game.
Yeah.
After getting
That's
through the week one.
interesting because maybe like today was going into today. It was just, did you just lock a team, but you decided that was like, this team comp is just a winner team fight comp. Let's kind of fix the mistakes we had yesterday and not play as close to the series. Was that kind of the game plan going into that? Was just play something a bit easier and get a good clean win on the board?
Yeah, something like that. I think our draft, we just weren't as confident in our draft as we thought we were once the M&M game happened, I guess. But now we've got time to fix it. Yeah. I don't think anyone will be a problem towards the end of the split. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, congratulations on a 2-0 start to the UKLC. Hopefully we get to speak to you again soon. I've nothing more to say on that. Maybe don't fountain dive next time.
Yeah, my perfect KDA ruined. Take care.
All right, guys. So we're going to cut to a quick break. And when we're back with our second series of the day. This is going to be Bulldog versus Barrage. It's going to be a pretty interesting one to see. We'll see you after the break.